Okay, back with you. Here we go. I put 3 red arrows on this because there were 3 things that are a little different than what we did yesterday. The first is we're going to start using u sub 0. We don't always have to do that, but we're going to use other things than u sub 1. Okay, full attention up here, please. All right. So u sub 0 is a good way to start on real-world problems that involve time. We talked about how if we made this u sub 0, then this could be like u sub 1. That means after year 1, we have $240,000. Our money grew because it went up because the stock did well. All right. If you would have written this, I bet most of you would have wrote 1.2, right? Well, the reason I'm separating it is to show you how we're going to write the really hard equations later. Is we always write this as 1 plus something or 1 minus something. And if it's plus something, it's growing. And if it's minus something, what's the official word for that? Decay. Good. That's a decay factor then. This is a growth factor as opposed to a decay factor. And then this one, the reason the arrow's there is just to remind you that, notice, we used to say n is greater than or equal to 2. Well, I changed that because I used a 0 here. I had to use a 1 here because the domain is saying that it won't work on the first one. So it won't work on n equals 0 because n equals 0 is the first term. And this depends on looking at the term in front of it, and there is nothing in front of it. So basically, this is always 1 less than whatever this is right here. Okay, so moving on, let's say I was actually going to invest my $200,000 that I get in an inheritance or whatever, and I'm going to invest it in a stock that actually loses money every year. Stinks, but it happens sometimes. You don't always go up. This one is losing money because it's got a negative in there. And a lot of you yesterday would have wrote that as 0.8. I'd like you to start writing it as 1 minus 0.2 because number one thing it does is it tells you the decay rate, 20%. If you just have 0.8, it doesn't have the decay rate in it. Yeah, you can figure it out. But this is better also because I know what these equations are going to look like when they get hard. They're going to look like this. And so they're going to get much more complicated. And they always have a 1 plus in them. So trust me, even though, yes, it's true that you could have 1.07, only the 0.07 part later is going to get divided by something. See, I can't have 1.07 and then like divide just the 0.07 part unless I separate them. So I need to separate them into 2 parts because later you're going to have to do that to be able to handle the hard problems. Okay, so I know where you're going. That's why we're doing it that way. All right, any questions so far? Okay, then I'm going to give you one last problem I'd like you to try. In your notes, the manatees in Florida keep getting hit by motorboats. It's true. This is a manatee if you've never seen one before. I had a personal run-in with manatees. It was kind of fun, actually. My family went down to stay in Florida, and we rented a bed and breakfast for a couple days right on the ocean. And one of the reasons we stayed there is because they said, come and watch the manatees swim past our dock every day. Because in the morning, see, they go out to the ocean to feed and stuff. But then at night, they swim back into past these people's dock and then go into this little cove that's like a little shallow bay. Like we've got those in Lake Minnetonka, but there's no manatees. Anyway, so we decided to go visit the manatees one morning before they had gone out to sea. So we got up early, we jumped in the canoe, we paddled into this back little bay off the ocean, and it was really shallow and kind of murky in the water, probably warmer in there. They probably like that. And they started like popping their heads up to breathe. They don't have a blowhole. They kind of look like they might, right at the top here, but they don't. They just use their nostrils right there. They stick them up and breathe. And so you can hear them breathing. You can hear them inhaling and exhaling. It's kind of cool. So we were in the canoe, me and my wife and 3 kids, all in one canoe. And we paddled back in this little bay. And at first they were surfacing like far away from us, probably nervous about what the big canoe was doing there. And then one of them got curious and couldn't see a thing. Remember, the water's kind of murky. And all of a sudden, right next to us, like a foot away from me, this big set of nostrils and like kind of elephant-colored skin sticks out of the water and goes, like big sucking in, or actually I think they blew out air first, and then to suck in air. And it was like startling because it was so quiet and everything. And my daughter lets out a little scream, and then all of a sudden, everybody like turned to like look at it. And what happens when you turn fast in a canoe? It's like rocking, like we were just about to go over, and then the canoe, which had sat outside in the Florida salty air for a long time, what happens to metal when it's in salt for a really long time? It gets rusty, and the rusty seat that in the canoe, which was it was bolts holding up this wooden seat. Anyway, the bolt broke on my seat, and so that hit the bottom of the canoe, and it sounded like bam, and out in this, and so all of a sudden there's these like 40 swirls all around us because we scared the crap out of all the manatees in the bay because it was this super loud noise all of a sudden. So there was like water swirling everywhere. We're tipping back and forth. I thought for sure we're going to be swimming with them. But we stabilized the boat. It'd probably be even more exciting if we'd actually ended up in the water. But I'm really glad we didn't, because I was told before we even went back there, they said, don't get in the water. You might be tempted to like swim with the manatees, or, it sounds all nature friendly and stuff. But there's crocodiles that live in the shallow water too, and you don't want to be in there with them. So anyway, the manatees wouldn't hurt you, but the crocodiles would. So anyway, there's my manatee story. On this one, on your calculator, this will stretch you a little bit. Don't use use of 1 for the first year. Use use of 2008, because that's the year it happened, and it'll make a lot more sense. So on the top line of your calculator, when you're going to put this in, our lowest number is going to be U sub 2008 right here. Okay? And then go down, and it's decreasing every year. It's not going plus 3 like it was here. It's going multiply by, so go times, put this in your calc, please. And then this is going down by 12% every year, so I multiply by parentheses 1 minus 0.12. Okay. Oh, I got 2 decimals in there. Oopsie. Okay. And then it didn't start at 27. My first year I had 400 manatees, so I go 400 here. Okay. See how I got that now? Now, why would I start at year 2008? Because then, if I go to my table settings, I want my table to start at the year 2008. And I look at my table, I can tell right away, oh, year 2008, there was 400 manatees. And year 2009, there was 352. You get the idea? So by using that year, it makes my problem way easier than trying to figure out what is that 2 years later or 3 years later. It's less confusing, okay? So then the other part of the problem says, figure out what year the manatee population will drop all the way down to double digits. Well, it was triple digits, right? So you just keep on, there's no like magic way to do this. You just keep arrowing down until you get to where it's single digits. What year was it? Somebody find it? Oh, there it is. 2019 is the first year it drops down to less than 100 manatees left. It is true. They're kind of a cool beast that is endangered, and people have to be careful when they're driving their boats. They just kind of float just underneath the surface, so they really can't see them. I don't really feel like the only people that are really evil in this are the people that drive back in the manatee zones where they're supposed to drive really slow, and some people drive fast, and the manatees then can't get out of the way, and they get hit with the prop, and it cuts their back all up, and sometimes kills them. Sometimes they just swim around with a big scar on their back, and then the next one kills them. So there's a lot of them that have been killed by motorboats. If it wasn't for that, they really don't have many predators. So they would be, they wouldn't be dying off like this. Because nothing really eats I shouldn't say nothing. Probably something out in the big scary ocean would eat manatees. I'm sure like sharks or something would eat them, but they're generally they wouldn't have many predators back in those safe shallow bays, but the boats get them. Okay, want to give you plenty of time to work on homework. We still got about 20 minutes left, so I'm gonna stop my video and get you to work.